Hey everyone, this video is meant to explain the Mindfulness Project. This is a new media project that's due at the end of the semester, but rather than work on it just at the end of the semester, this is something that we start now and we build on up until the end of the semester. So this is something that takes place over the next couple of months. Um, and basically, there are two steps that you need to understand in order to get started with this project. The first step is to download a usage monitoring app on your smartphone. Um, if you don't have a smartphone or you're not comfortable with using this on your smartphone, you can use something else called Rescue Time, which basically is installed on your computer and it tracks your computer usage. So, how much time you're spending and what you're spending most of your time on. So, if you're an iOS or an iPhone user, you'll want to download the app Moment. And if you are an Android user, you'll want to download the app Space. Both of these apps are free. They're harmless on your phones. They're not going to take up too much of your battery life. But they're going to do two things importantly. They're going to track your usage. So they're going to look at how many minutes, total minutes you spend on your phone each day. They're going to look at the number of times you check your phone. So these are called checks. So it looks at the usage. And then it also looks at the activity. So what you're doing. What are the most frequently used apps? Are you typically a social media person? Are you a news person? Are you an email person? Are you a texting person? And it gives it a breakdown of the most frequently used apps and programs on your phone or on your computer. Um, and so what we're going to do with these apps is we're going to install them now. You need to install this as soon as possible and then just let them run. Let them run and collect their data. And at the end of the semester, you'll have a whole mountain of data that you can use to draw conclusions. So, for example, let's say in December, you go to get the data and pull it all together, and you look at your usage and you see that you're typically on your phone at nighttime during the hours between 8 and 11 and mostly on weeknights, hardly on weekends. You can start to draw conclusions like why might that be? What are you doing during that time? Or what do you suppose your smartphone habits are? What are they driving you to do? So that's kind of the goal for this, is to make you more aware of your technology habits, specifically your smartphone habits, and whether or not you are satisfied with that, whether or not you're happy with how that plays out. And so along the way, we're going to be doing blog entries. We have 8 entries altogether. So in Canvas, you might see, beginning with this week, these links for the mindfulness blog. And there's nothing to do here in Canvas. There's nothing for you to do or submit in Canvas. This is just giving you what the entry or the prompt is about. You actually will want to craft your responses in something called Medium, which is what I'm showing you here, and I'll explain that in a minute. But the first blog entry is for you to take this online compulsion test and keep the results. And then reflect on these questions. Do the results accurately describe your usage habits? Why or why not? And would you personally consider yourself to be dependent on your smartphone? I hesitate to use the word addicted, but you can think of it in the same way here. Are you um, sort of addicted to your smartphone? The compulsion test looks like this. It's online. It's a bunch of yes and no questions, 15 questions. Once you finish the quiz, it gives you a snapshot of your profile, of whether or not you are likely using your phone compulsively. And that's where this blog entry comes from. So you'll need to take that quiz first, and then think of these questions. Now, for your actual blog, we have 8 of these different blogs. Where are you going to write your responses? You'll want to go to something called medium.com and sign up. Just create a free account. and start a new story. So you can click on your profile and start new story, and you get a page that looks something like this. It's kind of like a Google Doc, actually. But you'll want to give it a title on the title line, and then you can give it an introduction. Make sure that you separate the entries, please. We have 8 of these. Make sure that they're separated so that I know which is which. And you can give the response here. So you can write your response to the prompt here, and then just keep it like this. There's nothing else you need to do. We'll just let it run like this, right? So then next week, there's an entry number 2. Come back to this story, and you write your response to blog entry number 2. So on and so on until we get through all 8. In addition to these entries, you also want to write just a little bit, possibly um, before this blog section. You want to write a little bit about yourself. So include some background information, maybe just some general thoughts on the project. So do you think this is something that could benefit you? Are you generally aware or worried about your smartphone usage, or do you think it's a problem, or do you not think it's a problem? And just kind of, talk about your smartphone habits in general. So that's just the sort of about section. There's really no specific parameters or guidelines that I have for this. I don't have word limits or anything like that for entries. It's just meant to be reflective. It's meant to be something that you think about on your own. So I can tell you that, obviously the better projects are going to have the lengthier, more thought-provoking responses in all of these blog entries. But in addition, at the very end of the semester, once you've collected all of your data, you'll want to include a chart of your data, along with some conclusions that you want to draw, like I mentioned. So you'll create your chart in something else. Maybe PowerPoint would be a good example, or any other software that can create a chart. You can think about, bar charts or pie charts, or um, whatever you want to do to represent your data. But you'll also want to include that chart in this story. And so to do that, you can just click on the plus button, and you can either embed the chart this way if you know how to do that, or you can just take a picture of the chart or save the chart somewhere and just add it as an image this way. But it will go into this story at the end of the project after all of your blog entries, and then you'll want to write some conclusions and inferences that you can draw based on this data. You want to explain the data as well as present the actual numbers, right? Um, so this is really how the project works. So just to recap, and I'll send this document to you along with this video so you can read through it, and I have links to all of these different things. But just to recap, the first thing you'll want to do is download your app immediately and just let it run. Make sure that it's running and make sure that it's collecting data the whole time. You don't want to turn it off because then you won't have any data to report on. I'll also be checking in with you in a few weeks just to see where you are with this. So just to see how's it going, any questions, any problems, and probably just a checkpoint along the way. The other thing is to start your story in Medium. So like I said, that first blog entry is available now. So it's available this week. You can do this immediately. You don't have to have any of the data collected in order to do these blogs. So um, they're all here for you. You can begin with the blog entry number 1. Blog entry number 2 will be launched next week. So that's it. That's the project. We'll probably talk a little bit more about this later on, but I wanted to get you started on it so that we can begin collecting data and we can begin writing some of these blog entries, and then we can have a really nice project. We can have a really good artifact by the end of the semester. So let me know if you have any questions. I'll send out this video along with the document that explains it a little bit more, and feel free to reach out to me with questions about how to do any of this. Thank you very much.